Chord to the Clizzo. All right, everybody. So thank you for coming this evening. Let's get it started. Thank you for your patience hanging in there while we were waiting for, other folks to get in and whatnot. And hopefully, those who are able, you've seen in the chat the article about Fred Hampton Jr. and Moms, the Queen, if you don't know these folks, get familiar. It's my pleasure, to know the brother and have made his acquaintance, and solid brother. He lives up to the thing. And if anybody knows, what was put from the Dead Prez song, where my brother M1 says, and he looked just like him, walk just like him, talk just like him. And it's all true, because he literally is, the spitting image and spirit of his father. And, born out of, well, hopefully y'all seen the movie. All right. So, so first of all, let's lay down some ground rules, because we had a couple of little problems before. I need folks to understand that this is a discussion. This is not a lecture, right? I don't want to just, do Jamal Crawford, his review of all these points. A discussion. It's a film discussion. This needs to be interactive. So I'm really encouraging everybody, don't be shy. Okay, you say you don't see anything in the chat. Okay, let's see here. All right, bang. So I really need for people to not be shy. Now, if you didn't see the movie, then I understand. If you didn't see the movie and you don't want to speak, that's okay. But if you saw the movie, I would really, really appreciate you contributing. If you're shy or whatever, you want to put it in the chat or whatever, but it really, really, really is important that it's a give and take and a back and forth, because trust me, I don't just want it to be the Jamal Crawford show. So we all need to talk together. Like I said, last week, what have you, made the joke. I'm not trying to be the dude with a little hat on my head, men on film. Hated it. I'm not, This is a discussion. We got to go back and forth. All right. So with that said, first of all, let's start it up. Let's warm up everybody's vocal cords and all that. So how many folks just saw it? Obviously, we know those who didn't see it, but if you want to share that or whatever, or wherever you are with it, whatever, certainly, what have you, but everybody chime in right now. Talk, folks saw it, you saw it. When did you see it? Initial thoughts?
Well, this is Charles. Go ahead, brother.
Go ahead, brother.
All right, peace and blessings. Jamal, thank you for having this platform for us to have this discussion. And please excuse my voice. I have a mask on. So if I don't come too clear, I'll try to find a place where I could take the mask off. But my mother and I, Sister Virginia, we watched it when it debuted that Friday. And very interesting, just like I don't know if you saw the movie. I think it's called Skin, American Skin.
Mm-hmm.
And very truthful, very revealing. However, I did find out some more things about the chairman and what is going on. What was going on then is still going on now to break up Black organizations. And I'm glad that the movie showed how the government has always searched out for the Black Messiah. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Who else had a comment?
No, I was going to say that this is Kenyatta from Metapan. and I saw it the day that it came out on Friday. I have to admit, I fell asleep because usually that happens on Fridays, after work, tired, whatever. So I saw it the next day. So I saw it about 1.5 times, and I'm trying to see it again. But yeah, I did see it, and when I was younger, so I'm 49 right now, and back when I was like 19, 20 years old, I read a lot of different books, the Black Panther, Huey P. Newton's autobiography, Son of Shakira, so on and so forth. I read the assassination, what happened with um, Fred Hampton. So yeah, I saw it the day of. I saw part of it, then watched it again the day after. So yeah, and in terms of like the gentleman who just spoke, he was saying that the COINTELPRO, what was going on back then, is kind of like things are valid now. I remember recently they have this new thing called BIE, Black Identity Extremist, okay, and how you don't hear about white identity extremists. So yeah, so I mean, I'm here for the discussion, and I don't want to say everything right now, so I'll just kind of, when things start coming out, I'll chime in.
Yes, sir. All right. Anybody else? Oh, and too, let me give you other rules too. Also, when I do community conversations and whatnot, anybody that's been to a community meeting I've done in real life or any discussion, another thing too, I'm also demanding of is it's not going to just be the Jamal Crawford show. It's also not just going to be only the men talking. We are not going to have a big swashbuckling sword fight up here. You understand what I'm saying? So I need all the sisters to know that not only, do I want you to chime in, but like, I mean, literally, like this is encouraged and, valued and all that. And nobody should feel shy here. We take questions, comments, suggestions, and donations. Holla. You know what I'm saying? So it's all open. We trying to have a dialogue and chop it up. You know what I mean? So anybody else got anything to say, please?
Hi, Jamal. It's Jackie.
Peace.
I watched it last night, but previously, I think it was the movie that Charles mentioned about Skin.
American
They were
Skin.
talking about how they fabricated the FBI reports, and I really need to dig back to see if it was, to get the exact name of the movie. But they were fabricating the reports about the Black Panthers, and so this is why they were trying to justify their attack on them. So this was prior to the release of the movie that I discovered this. So seeing the movie, it wasn't exactly a surprise to me, that they were paying informants and things like that, because we know what happened with MLK and Martin Luther King. I mean, and Malcolm X. So this was, it was enlightening and informative, and I was glad that they showed, this side of things, because I didn't know that there were that many chapters. But yeah, the FBI targeted them and just kept targeting them and kept trying to justify it. And so this is something that's going on in history, decade after decade, and people really need to understand where law and order came from and what it really means when they say law and order. It's not what we would think, generally by the definition, but it's actually how to keep us in line, quote unquote us. So that's all I have to say right now.
All right. Anybody else got anything to add on?
Jamal.
Yep.
Um, Also, I'd just like to add that historical research, and I applaud you for the research that you do. Historical research is very valuable because as it gives to us insights to the past, it produces greater understanding of the present and it prepares us to walk successfully into the future. And with this new movie, and which actually, um, what's the word I want to use? It actually proves truth to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, that I hope that when folks like us that are like-minded see movies like this, we spread the word, and that we have discussions like the one that's having, not necessarily virtually, but you know, if you're on the bus or you're at a restaurant, because that's only going to help us to be more unified, to wake us up, and to pass a lit torch to the next generation. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anybody else got anything to add on?
I want to mention that I saw it when it first came out, and also I watched it again. But for me, being a young person, it was definitely helpful because we haven't been educated as much coming up in the school system. And then going to an HBCU, I thought I knew as much as I did, but getting the new information and a different perspective. And again, like Brother Charles said, to be able to spread that information about the movie to my friends and others who are like-minded definitely has been helpful for myself.
When you say young, how young are you?
31.
Okay, yeah, man, please stop it. You try that if you want to.
Well, let's keep it real. Brother Sherman was only 21, so
Well, okay.
30's not too bad, man, when you're 60 years old and then you're close to 70.
Well, okay, so now listen, this is exactly what I was about to jump into next. That was exactly my next point. First of all, I want folks to understand that this was a 21-year-old kid, okay? Even old boy, the snitch, was 17, and then I think he became 18 or whatever at the time. You know, he was already a 17-year-old car thief impersonating law enforcement, right? So unlike today, you know, look, I'm gonna try to do this very briefly, because it is a deep subject. I'm gonna talk about laziness and retardation, and I mean retardation in the true sense of the word, meaning the retardation of growth, right? So that the more distractions that have been entered into our society and whatever, and the more conveniences, distractions and conveniences have really crippled us. This is why now, you know, you don't see children running around with snow shovels when it snows, and you see, you know, an 80-year-old person out there digging out their car and kids walking by because they're like, whatever. And not all of them, but I'm just saying the majority, right? Because it's a thing, and we're competing now with PlayStation and Xbox and cable and, you know, the earbuds and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And so back in the day, a 19, 21-year-old, this was still something that you could get into, right? And now I believe that more than ever before, doing good is looked at as corny, not profitable, dangerous. And so cats like, I'd just rather just whatever. So we more concerned with whatever, sports, entertainment, you know, women, clothes, cars, you know, all the, once again, the distractions, right? And so a lot of this gets caught up with these people at this time, like youth, not all youth, because of course you had gangs back then too, right? Particularly in Chicago, right? But it seems like the mindset generally was focused. And once again, to achieve that level of national, well, local first, then statewide, then national, then international acclaim and renown, not based on the rap song, I'm not from Chicago, I'm not Chief Keef. I'm Fred Hampton. At 21, if you listen to what he was kicking, like, it's like, dude, how much did you study and when did you begin? Right? Because at 21, and this is also too, I can get spiritual with it, where some of it, I believe it's like almost channeled through us, where some of us just be like, you just open your mouth and it just comes out or something like that, because he was, as they say, wise beyond his years. And now 21 years old, 19 at the beginning of the thing. Now go look at your teenager, right? Your young 20 something. And now think about what I'm talking about in terms of how far we have come, but how far we have fallen in terms of better usage of, we have more technology than ever before. We literally are in Star Trek land. Computer, what is the square miles of the earth? Right? We're in Star Trek. Right? But yet, most people are using it for all them other things I said: sports, entertainment, porn, cars, fashion, gossip. You know what I mean? So in any event, I just point that out to say, let's start off with, this is what I'm talking about Black excellence. We have to first start off that this brother, Chairman Fred, 19 to 21 years old, bad. And also too, to the flip side of it, on the devil's side of it, that young man who got all entrapped up in the FBI thing, he's a goofy kid, right? With criminal intentions, right? So this is what was going on. And the plot being there with the drugs, with the weapons, with all the politics that was going on at the time, with the gang culture and all this type of stuff. You know what I mean? Y'all got to understand that. One thing that they didn't put in there, they put J. Edgar Hoover as the head of the FBI. They didn't talk about the local politics there with the mayor and all that. Because the Chicago local politicians, the local police, and the mayor over there was no joke either. Talk about season 2 of The Sopranos. You know what I mean? Okay, so let's go on. Let's open this back up because part of stuff, and then we also going to talk about the excellence of the actors. Once again, on that spiritual thing, I talk about channeling. Because if that brother didn't channel in Fred Hampton, it was eerie to watch. I've seen it a couple of times. Jamie Foxx did it with Ray Charles. Denzel did it with Malcolm. But damn it, that brother channeled in Fred Hampton Sr. All right, y'all. So let's get back onto the discussion. So what do you think about everything there I just threw on the table there? And let's talk about just the age and just how that happened.
Well, let me just throw in real quick. Now, around the 60s, that time frame was ripe for that, everything that you're talking about. Now, I know we have a lot of I agree with you there 100%. We have a lot of distractions. But like I said earlier, I read a lot of Black Panther, Assange Shakur, Hugh P. Newton, Eldridge Cleveland, all that stuff, right? And this was like around 1990, and I was about 18, 19 years old. And I felt alone because I was in college and we had, increase of, Black folks going to college around that time. And so when I was reading this stuff, I felt alone because they used to make fun of me. They used to make jokes about me because I was reading the Malcolm X autobiography and all this Black Panther and all this kind of stuff, even to this day. So, that's not a new phenomenon. Okay, I didn't even have a pager back then. I didn't have the cell phones look like, the cell phones, nobody had that back then, back in 1990. Okay.
Excuse you, correctamundo, sir.
Very few people. Those cell phones, those cell phones are huge. You might as well have a backpack. It almost looked like Vietnam. One of them phones.
I didn't have the briefcase one, but I had the brick phone. You better go check my Facebook, my Facebook profile pictures. Yeah, we were doing it.
Yeah. We didn't have we didn't have a pager and all that. We still had landlines. I didn't even have internet. The AOL with the dial up. We didn't have that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, sadly, we kind of lost it. And I was listening to somebody who kind of made a point that I brought up for a while now about continuity. Okay, so because one thing I noticed is that you're brought up, and your parents are, you talk about pioneers of this or that music and all this and that and other. You have parents saying, "Oh, we work harder, so you don't work as hard," but eventually you have to come up. So when I say about continuity, it's like you can't build something and then it ends, and then the next generation has to start over again. And it almost feels like we have to start over again because, like I said, the times now isn't ripe as it was in the 60s with Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Black Panthers. So, and this is a young people struggle. Like I said, I'm 49. I'm gonna be 50 this year. So, and like you said, Frank Hampton was 21. Huey P. Newton. These are college brothers. People, when you ask some of your older generation, your aunts, your great aunts and uncles and all that kind of stuff, they didn't know a lot about the Panthers, and the ones who did had a misconceptions about it. Calling them gangsters and all that. I mean, they didn't have a lot of information. So, I just want to kind of comment on something, just on what you said. So, like I said, we have to. It almost feels like we have to start from the beginning to get that, because in the film he said you could kill the revolutionary, but not the revolution. Somehow they killed the revolution. I mean, people could comment on that, but you have to
That
get to the point. We have to get to the point where we have to stop relying on the human beings, because you could assassinate leaders, but we have to have a code of conduct where you can assassinate somebody, but the code is still there within us.
Well, okay, so that's actually going to be a big point, and I need all y'all to hold me accountable, because sometimes when my brain starts going and I might not remember, that's going to be a big point. So please, y'all hold me and remember that we want to revisit this. But that whole thing about they somehow killed the revolution or we don't have anybody anymore, I just want us to change our verbiage, right? Because it's not that we don't have anybody or that they killed the revolution. No, no, it's different. um we certainly need a lot of help. See, I said we because I'm in the revolution, right? um um and we need help. And as we say, the work is many but the toilers are few, right? So um I a lot of the people that you mentioned, I've had the good fortune, and now a lot of these people are my elders and mentors, and a lot of these people are still alive. A lot of people mean like, oh, they killed all the Black Panthers. No. They locked up all the Black Panthers. No. Yes, many are dead. Yes, many did get locked up. Many are still locked up. But all is almost like our own admission of defeat, right? It's like we are already saying, no chance, we're done. You see what they did. They killed all our leaders, because that's another one I hear. They've killed all our leaders. Damn, they killed all of our leaders? Like, like that, so we just got to start thinking about that. Okay. Um, and as a person who's, done what I've done here locally, whatever, I've experienced the whole, let me give you a good example right now. Two things that everybody's bigging up right now. Everybody's bigging up the whole Black thing, right? It's Black History Month and red, black, and green, and all this type of stuff. Red, black, and green, blah, blah, blah. And into the other thing, everybody's bigging up police reform and blah, blah, blah. Now, my past 20, 30 years dealing with these things have been very lonely, you know. When dealing with those things of police reform or pushing the RBG thing. But yet, when it becomes sexy or it's in the newspaper, then everybody wants to out RBG and out Black history and out, everybody else. So I think that one of the things that hopefully we get to is a way where we can kind of bring back the tide. You know, it seems like me and you are only months apart in age. I just turned 50 at the end of January. I remember coming up here in Boston with the free schools. And I remember not only the Panthers, but the Mau Mau's and all that. And it wasn't just the 60s, it was also the 60s and the 70s. And then also, too, uh, we didn't just fizzle out or get lazy or something. They pumped in heroin, crack, you know, pimping, what you call it, Superfly, all that type of stuff. And this mentality that once again, with the distraction and the convenience, they gave us something that was easily to take our mind off of all that black revolutionary stuff. Put on this mink coat and this big hat and this feather. You know what I mean? And put this up your nose or whatever. And everybody just, I won't say everybody, but you know, a lot of people, the masses, you know, went another way. And it was no longer cool to be the revolutionary butt gangster, RBG, as their press said. Now it was just about being full-blown gangster with a slash of pimp, right? And so to me, this is what I feel like really undermined the movement, not only the FBI and the CIA's infiltration of it, not only here in America, but also abroad and blocking our movements to link with other people. But also that influx of the other stuff, the drugs and all this other stuff. All right. Let's go ahead. I see Brother Charles commenting here. Historical research is very valuable because it gives us insights into the past. It produces greater understanding of the present and it prepares us to walk successfully into the future. Absolutely. Anybody else want to chime in now?
I'd like to mention that another article, Neil had over his lifetime had earned over $200,000 snitching for the FBI. That he didn't stop with just Fred Hampton, he continued until he committed suicide or at least was assassinated, but more than likely suicide. So he was a professional snitch. And they didn't, also, as you pointed out, they didn't kill the movement. The Chicago Black Panther Party continued to grow even after the assassination. And there's leadership out of the party even today. So they didn't kill the movement, they killed Fred Hampton.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think too, you know, when we look at the, you know, this really the Judas title is how fitting because, you know, 30 pieces of silver, right? You know, $200,000. Well, now, I mean, then it was a really a lot of money, but $200,000 now, you know, that can't even buy you a condo in Boston. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it's a mere pittance. And not to say that, well, if it was $3 million, then he should have snitched. I'm just saying that it's amazing how it is often so easy to find some of us who are so willing to do the most for the least, for little, you know, little crumbs, thinking, you know, you're going to be better off. And also, too, we've mentioned this other movie, which we discussed last week, American Skin. Another one I want to bring into this with another similar situation is remember the Black Klansman? Remember this movie that came out a couple years ago now?
Loved it.
Excuse me?
I said it was good. It was a good movie.
Well,
You don't think so?
Well, we might have to revisit that one and do a whole nother discussion maybe
All
next
right.
week on that.
We could do that.
But so for instance, in that one, remember now, so we made a hero when we lionized that brother because he went in and infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan, right? But remember, he got his start and he made his bones infiltrating the Black Panther Party.
That is correct.
Okay.
But can I say something real quick now?
Sure.
At both the Black Klansman and also in this one, if you notice too, that there was a lot of regret in what they were doing, especially in Black Klansman. It looks like that he went in, investigating. I think it was Stokely Carmichael, and then when he actually went to hear him speak, and he went back to report, he was like, "What are you guys talking about?" You know, because it was portrayed to him that Black folks is going to do all this overthrowing and so on and so forth. But when he heard him speak, he got a different impression. It's like, what are you guys talking about? And it almost seems like in this the Judas verse in the Black Messiah was the same thing. When he went back to report, and it's like it was portrayed to him, you know, J. Edgar Hoover. I just want people to know that I think J. Edgar Hoover was passing. So there was a lot of self hatred there. But um, yeah, so it's,
Hold on. So you believe the theory that J. Edgar Hoover had some sort of black in him?
yeah, from a lot of things I read, so on and so forth, that he was passing. But
And you
either way,
believe
he
that
was
was the
definitely,
source of his racial animus?
well, whatever it is, he was put in that position in the government because he was very gung ho. I mean, he went after these, black organizations. They just wanted to stop it. You know what I'm saying? So whether
Okay,
he was,
as
whether it
opposed,
was true, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as opposed to the fact that he was just like a mentally ill, sadistic, you know, I mean, this guy nowadays, this guy is like a serial killer type. This guy is like, you know, he he whatever he displayed all the symptoms of, like, you know, just no conscience, no accountability for self, you know, his own sexual proclivities, where he was, you know, Martin Luther King was a dirty scumbag because he was cheating on his wife. Meanwhile, you might be over here having sex with dogs and donkeys, and you know, I mean, this guy was a freak. So like,
Yeah,
let's
he
not,
definitely.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
so let's not make it like there was some logic to his thing. It's, I always, you know, I watch a lot of forensic files. They be like, why did he murder the kid? Because he's crazy. So J. Edgar Hoover, let's not try to, at least for me, it's almost like what people try to do with Hitler and say, oh, well, Hitler, you know, he was half a Jew or whatever. Well, he might have been a half a Jew, but I know he was all the way crazy. So same thing with Hoover. All right. And of course, everything that happened manifested that. But really and truly, I don't even believe Hoover was the brainiac behind all this, because he was given a position, and it's a pit bull. The United States government did not want this to happen. It was just his job to take care of it. And they took all the tethers off. You could use, to quote one of our heroes, you can use whatever means necessary. Take
Yeah,
these black people out.
yeah,
Okay?
and I agree with you 100% that he was working for white supremacy. Okay, and like I said, these snitches, when they actually, were sent to look at, to sit in with on these lectures of these prominent black figures, whether it's Fred Hampton, Stokely Carmichael, or whoever, Malcolm X. It wasn't they went in. It was portrayed to them that, there was this, we had this secret cabal to kind of overthrow the government and do this, that, and other thing, be terrorists, and then they learned something totally different.
And they
Okay.
kind of had a change of heart, and then they didn't go back to work on Monday.
Right, right, but they kept see.
No, brother, that's not what
They have.
happened. That's exactly
No,
what I'm
no, no,
saying.
no.
No,
What I'm saying, no, what I'm saying. But this guy, he kept no, he kept going because they had something over his head, and you know, like I said, I don't know all the details of William
no,
Monique.
he kept
But
going.
what I will say, I just want to throw this out there real quick. Now, we're using words like snitch and all that kind of stuff, and I think times are kind of changing because we've
Okay,
been
here we
using,
are. Thank
no
you.
matter what terminology you use, whether it's snitch or Judas. Right now, we've been using coon lately. Now you're gaslighted if you use coon, so you can't even punish people who are Judases, who are snitches, who are coons, because it's just that's just the this era is different from the '60s, man.
I disagree wholeheartedly. So, I believe, like the Catholic Church, you know, I believe in excommunication and ostracization. Um, this also came up with the brother who did the whole, you know, who killed Malcolm X documentary, and many of us, you know, who were in the movement, you know, already knew who these people are and whatnot. And it was always, to me, one of the shames of the hood that these people just be walking around scot-free and clear, and nobody so much as just smacks them in their forehead. So for me, yeah, no, I don't get down like that. I mean, I don't know how morbid or somber we want to get here, but like, I'm not sad the dude killed himself. I think that that's not for nothing, another of the dualities with the whole Judas example. You know, some snitches get stitches, others later on can't deal with themselves because of what they've realized they've become, and they go do their thing. Not for nothing, in Japan, people who have dishonored themselves, they commit suicide on a ritualistic thing if they brought
Hey,
dishonor
very
to their
bad.
family or their people or whatever. So all I'm gonna say is that in those type of cases, I don't really feel bad for that. And in cases of other people that we know who have been complicit, like, in order for you to tell me you snitched on somebody like that, you can't tell me they had a case on you, right? You better tell me they got your daughter like in a trunk with a gun on her head. You know what I mean? Like, other than that, like, I don't a case, bruh, send me to jail. Click clack. You know what I mean? How many years was the trouble? You stealing cars in person?
5. That was 5 or 6. Yeah.
Yeah, do the 5 years, man. Because instead of the 5 years, you had to live the next 30 years as a sucker, which is a worse sentence. And then it became a life sentence or a death sentence. You coulda, shoulda, woulda. That black man at that time, when offered that deal, would have been way better off if he said, "Thank you, devil. No, thank you. Appreciate you. Show me to my cell." He'd have been out.
He took the easy way out because they said he committed suicide when Eyes on the Prize 2 came out. So it's like he knew that people were going to come after him once that aired. So I feel like he took the easy way out anyway. But prior to the whole violent scenes, what I wanted to highlight was that I was, amazed and delighted to see the parts where they were honoring the women that worked among them. They were all comrades, and how they were showing, respect for one another, and how they looked out for the community and was teaching the young children how to have pride in themselves, and big up in health and all the aspects of what health and wealth and all that meant. He was trying to teach them autonomy and how to be community. It's like all these things that were so much more important, and his approach wasn't violent. And then he went to the white people that were oppressed and bonded with them, and the Hispanics. And so these are the things, when you find like-minded people, there are ways for you to actually get things done. And so, those things stood out to me in that part of the movie. And,
That's all.
and when it came down to it, he was like, well, I'm not going to run and hide. If they're coming after me, let them come after me. But today, you're hard pressed to find people that are willing to die for something. Because they don't know what they're living for. They don't know their history. They think that the struggle's over. But they are hard pressed to be like, oh yeah, I'll die for the cause. I'll die for my people. I'll die for something, that advances my people. It's just not there.
Good
Yep.
evening, everyone. I wanted to say really quick, just understand that he wasn't the only one, but also when they pick people, they don't just pick the strong ones, they pick the weak ones. So just wanted to point that out. They're not gonna pick some brother that's gonna really die for his people.
Well, let me ask y'all this too. I know at least, pardon me, I just got some pizza. I know at least for me, um, for those that don't know, I was a member of the new Black Panther Party, and I was the Boston chapter chairman and the national minister of information for some years. So being a member of that organization, I learned a lot and experienced a lot of things. Brother Charles in the chat has talked about the Nation of Islam, which, let me actually go back. The Nation of Islam is 90 years old and is self-sufficient. The Nation of Islam was destroyed in 1975 to nothing and rebuilt after 3 years like it never left, due to the spirit of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and mentored by Malcolm X. I say all that to say, I don't know who else in here has anybody else in here been a member of an organization that has experienced that governmental repression, like agents, infiltrators, FBI, CIA, local police, that type of thing. Because once again, I know for me, New Black Panther Party, I know Brother Charles for Nation of Islam. Anybody else has been in the organization, anything like that, it has experienced this level of scrutiny?
Jamal,
Yeah.
if I can just say that in the Nation of Islam, we are constantly taught to look out for the agents. We are constantly taught to look for the characteristics of the agent. And that is one of the reasons why the Nation of Islam has survived for so long. And let's take away about the religious aspect of it and just focus on the self-reliance, the doing for self, the self-love, and what have you. And because of the Nation of Islam being proactive and not always on the defense, because when Master Fard Muhammad came in 1930, he actually put us on the offense because we've been on the defense for so long, Jamal. And I'm not saying that the Nation of Islam has the answers for everything. No, just like you're eating that pizza right now. That pizza does something, the glass of milk, for those that are not lactose intolerant, but that glass of water, all the black organizations has a part of the ingredients for us to be successful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I just want to throw out there too that I know people mention American Skin. That was Nate Parker film. He made a film before that called Birth of a Nation, and Nat Turner, based on Nat Turner. And so this is so old. This is during slavery days where insurrections, when you have, you know, you have that person will report back to massa to go back. You know what I'm saying? It's like you have this whole insurrection planned, and then it gets circumvented because you have this one person in the group that's reporting back. So this is nothing new. This whole Judas, snitch, coon thing is oldest before slavery even ended. You know what I'm saying? During slavery times, and it's a very dangerous thing. And just how Charles was just saying that to look out for the stitches Judas Coons is very important because they, these agents can be very dangerous to any organization.
And not for nothing, I mean, there's levels to it where, this thing is this applies to relationships, business, not just the revolution and organizationally. We all have had, it's basically about like toxic people. You know what I mean? You can't trust everybody. Our native brothers will tell you, smiling faces, but beware of the man to speak with the forked tongue. You know what I mean? So all of this type of stuff where, yes, this is age old because there are certain things that are like, cosmic universal laws, universal order. Wherever you go on the planet, whatever culture, whatever time period, you're going to be able to find these certain elements of love or lust or betrayal or whatever, coveting thy neighbors, whatever. And so right here, for us, hopefully as we do all these film discussions, we can get to a point too where we can now then begin, at the end, maybe have some sort of big Boston discussion. Because, like, dare I say, so if you had to pick out in Boston, who are the Black Messiahs? Who are the Judases? Okay, so this is what I'm saying. You figure that out in your own brain. I'm down. I'll bust out a pen and paper. We can make a list if y'all about it. but like, for real, because this is the type of conversation we have. And then also too, another point that I want to make. Oh, thank you, Lord. So while someone is in the throngs of doing what they do, working for the enemy, right? Oftentimes they got to do the most. Okay, if you remember when brother came in with the story about, what they was going to do to the traitor, and he's like, oh, man, shoot, if I was there, I would have stomped him and kicked him and punched him, and I would have, man, you lucky I wasn't there, because he was overcompensating, okay? Or even after the Black Panther headquarters got jacked up by the police and all this type of thing, right? Then he wanted to be the first one there with the broom and the thing and measuring and doing the carpentry and all this, because once again, overcompensation, and I'm sure guilt, to Brother Kenyatta's point before, that maybe, deep internally he had an internal conflict because he knew what he was doing was wrong, but not enough to stop doing what he was doing, right? He didn't have that type of change of heart. It's like, this is wrong, but I'll be there tomorrow. So, but in looking at this type of thing, I think that now, once again, we have to figure out amongst ourselves, that every time that somebody looks like they for the cause, because there was some people at that time who was looking up to him, like, yo, wow, that brother, he's really powerful. That brother's really active. Man, he's at all the meetings. Wow, that's a really diligent brother. Wow, look at his discipline. Wow, he's really on point. He was the security captain. Okay, so there were people looking up to him, not knowing that this was a complete fraudulation. A perpetration, right? And so now in our own community, we have those who, I don't even want to give you too many stories, but I have seen those who have, like, been big proponents of the red, black, and green, right? And then they got pictures where they're holding it incorrectly, okay? Because they don't know, but you can't tell. Leave it to them. That is, I am Malcolm X, okay? But a lot of these people, I'll give you another dead giveaway too. Watch out when people make a fist. Any women here too, maybe you can learn something if you don't already know. I'm not trying to say women because a lot of men don't know either. But please, if you ever make a black power fist and you put it in the air, don't do this. Don't do that, okay? Okay, your thumb needs to go over the first two of your joint. That's how you make a proper fist, right? Because you need to hit with these two. Okay, I'm doing too much. But the point is, some people be like, yo, right on. Be like, they perpetrate in the training, they perpetrate in the culture, but they don't really know. No different than the people want to fight and be like, I know karate. And anybody who really knows karate be like, those hand movements are not official. Or yeah, I'm a Crip. Be like, what is that, sign language? That's not Crip. You know what I mean? So all I'm saying is, let's be careful and make sure we know what we're talking about and so on and so forth. And that helps. And this is the last thing before I shut up and open it up again. As you said, Brother Charles, people getting trained in the thing. In the new Black Panther Party, one of the things that we were learning, constantly is that everybody ain't got to be an agent to be an agent. There's some people who do the work of the devil just because they goofy and incompetent. And so you might think, wow, hold on. The brother was in charge of the bus to New York and the bus ran out of gas. Is he an agent or is he just stupid? You know what I mean? So sometimes people just mess up because they goofy or they incompetent or they caught up in their own thing. He's a drunk, he's a womanizer, whatever it is, right? Other times it's actual people who are doing it to throw the monkey wrench into the plan. And so differentiating between the two becomes increasingly difficult as well. Please, let's open it back up, y'all. Thoughts? People got thoughts?
Jamal, I would love to know how do you determine which way is the black fist supposed to be made? I've never heard that in my life.
Well, it ain't even the black fist, it's just a fist. So just anybody who like, if you fight, so for instance, if you do a fist and you punch like this, you're gonna break your thumb. Okay. The thumb, just any martial artist, any boxer, anybody, you would have to know that your thumb needs to be tucked. And generally it's this part of your thumb, that top knuckle part, that goes across those two, right? And not for nothing, I don't have the tightest fist now too, because if you could see, I broke my fingers, so I can't even do that all the way straight. But as tight as I can get it up in there, that's a fist. And then if you ever have to bust somebody in their face, right, what you want to hit them with is the first two knuckles, right? Because everything after that is weaker, and you always want to basically strike with the first two knuckles, and your thumb is tucked.
So you're not speaking of any infiltration of people making the wrong fist movement. You're just saying the proper way to make a fist.
Oh yeah, but I'm also telling you too that for those, if somebody wanted to stand in the formation next to me as if they were trained, and then everybody has to put a fist up, that's one way to know that somebody is fronting on their training. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Look, certain people want to act like they veterans in the military, right? And I'm a military buff. Right over here, I got some military books, but I never been in the military. Okay, and I'm a pretty smart guy. It would take about 5 minutes, maybe not even that, for an actual trained Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine, whatever, because I ain't never been through that training. And so all I'm saying is, like, they could be able to pull certain things out because it's cold. And, you know, the nation has it as well. You know, the nation knows what I'm talking about. The military, look, actors in movies, they be doing the salutes and whatnot. You could tell the ones who really got the salute down and ones who really don't. All right, they playing with it. And that's all I'm talking about. So it's just a way to know a certain person is going to know a certain thing. You know karate, you know how to stand, you know all that. Don't come with the Martin Lawrence Dragonfly Jones stance and think you're going to scare somebody that really knows real martial arts. Right? Come on, y'all. I can't hear you. Who's talking? iPhone. Come on, iPhone. Probably can't hear you right because it is an iPhone. I'm an Android guy.
They're probably on mute. Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself, iPhone. Okay. Maybe it was a mistake. Well, anybody else got any more points? Jump on in. Let's get this going. And I want to hear from more women too, please. Come on, sisters, talk to me. Some of y'all, let's actually take a pause and let's hear from somebody who has not said nothing yet.
So what I was struck by in the movie was that when they were sitting with him, forcing him to become an informant, it was the same thing they do to black men all the time, which is take this plea bargain. So it just struck me that it's just the same, pulling them in. And then they went from first threatening him with a case, we're going to get you on a case, and then after that they switched it up to saying the Black Panthers will kill you if it comes out. So I thought that was interesting how when the case thing didn't hold him anymore, they started talking about how we get killed. So it just sort of like the same kind of how we pull black men into prison. It felt the same to me. Different outcome, but same approach of intimidation.
And see, not for nothing, me as a street guy, that's exactly why you never, like when you deal with the devil, you know, they come in, we got you for these car thefts, you know, now we want you to do this. And then what you about to get into ends up being way worse. You should have just cut your losses and said, you know what? You got me. You got me. Let me just go do this thing, because now they talking about, no, you a snitch. You can't never go back to your community no more. Now your life is in jeopardy. The white man told me he's going to take care of you. But apparently, you know, he was clearly not a student of history, because apparently he didn't know that white men lie. Like, they broke every promise they've ever made. So the thought that somehow, what did you think? You and your FBI handler was going to go move into Florida together and do a buddy flick or something? How did you think this was going to end? Goofball. So boom, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. The Panthers could kill you, the FBI, whatever. Whoop, whoop. I mean, so that's exactly why this never works out. It just never works out. Never works out. You know, and not for nothing too, I have been in my life, both criminally and in the revolutionary world, in a position to snitch by law enforcement, okay? In the room, the lights, the whole thing. What do you know? Me, if you don't know, me being this guy, I'm literally this guy. I be making jokes and stuff. So during the when Tiffany Moore got murdered, actually, and they swept my whole hood, Humboldt, they snatched me up multiple times. And not for nothing, I don't mind. Well, actually, I won't say that name. But anyway, a very high, prominent cop that we all know, former cop for him, BPD. He was just a young cop then. He's one of the people that snatched me up and was like, yo, tell us who killed Tiffany Moore. By this time, they had already had Sean Drumgold snatched up. And I was like, yo, well, I can't tell you who killed her, but I could tell you who didn't. Okay. Yeah, we know. They smacked me in my head a little bit, let me go. You know what I mean? And actually, they mentioned the name of two other people. So it's like, wow, you asking me about who did it. You already got ideas in your brain about who did it. And meanwhile, I tell you, I can't tell you who did it, but I can tell you who didn't do it. And you was like, oh, we already knew he didn't do it. But yet he was still in jail. Huh? And stayed there for another 13 years, by the way. Okay? So, you know, not for nothing, whatever. I digress. Please, somebody else got anything else to add on? Come on, talk to me. Somebody else who hasn't spoken yet tonight, please chime in.
I think he got away easy that time he was in the car with the other Panthers. That time they had kind of figured out that he could have been a snitch. When the sister had pulled the gun out on him, I think they could have got him right there, because again, how are you stealing the car with the keys? And you know, you're supposed to be a car thief, and your whole rap was you were stealing cars, and that's how they busted you with the badge before and all that in the third with the crowns, you know. That was his moment right there where he could have blown his whole cover and got it all figured out right there. But he made it on a prayer that time by rubbing those wires together there. Because if he couldn't make the car start right there, she would have blown his head off. So I just thought he was weakened from the beginning, like you said, from that point, not willing to take the charge going that far, because he was willing to put his life on the line, going into bars, risking his life, trying to steal people's cars. So I mean, at that point, you're already throwing your life away and risking your survival, risking your well-being. Why are you scared to go to jail at that point?
And that's the point. Exactly. Anybody else, particularly those who haven't chimed in?
You know, Jamal, I like to add that I didn't know that friend Hampton was the originator of the Rainbow Coalition. That was an eye-opening moment for me.
Oh, check it out. Where's Jesse Jackson from?
Chicago.
Mm.
No, I get that. I
There
get
you
that,
go.
but I get that. However, I never knew that he was labeled that. And that was an eye-opening moment for me. And how he was uniting the so-called black gangs, the white extremists, the Latinos. You know, the government does not want unity. And the government doesn't want a message that's universal. And I'll say it again and again. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has that message because he has transcended all the way down to those that are in their teens and their 20s and their 30s. So I know you was going to ask that question about a Messiah in Boston, but I'm going to say a Messiah for the world is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in my humble opinion. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, so a couple of other things I want to get in on too. And please, y'all, once again, chime in. I'm just looking at this time because it's 8:19 now. So I want to talk as well. Okay, well, yeah, we got to do that. Yeah, I guess we might as well go into the rainbow thing now. So this is another point that is being brought up by those who are critics of the movie. They are saying that there has been an overemphasis on this, an overemphasis on this aspect of Chairman Fred's organizing. Because, and I just was actually watching an interview with the brother who played him, Daniel Deluye. Oh man, I can't.
Kalor,
Say it again.
I think it's Kalor. Daniel Kalor, I think it's
Daniel Kalua, like the drink.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Kaluuya. All right. At least that's how it's spelled. Yep. All right. So yeah, so Daniel Kaluuya. And he was really speaking to the fact that, see, at the end of the day, like Fred Hampton was not dangerous because he was trying to unite white people or whatever. Like it became dangerous when it came down to blacks and Latinos. Let's and really black people. That, you know, so some of this work around multiculturalism and so on and so forth, we have to understand that while that happened, that the main program that was there is one of black power. That's where it started. You know, charity starts at home and then goes abroad. So I'll leave it to other folks to kind of do a more analysis on this. And I do think actually I'm going to actually really try to reach out to Fred Hampton Jr., who can really illuminate and we'll try to have a discussion here for the Boston community with him so he could really talk more about these type of things. But one of the problems with a Hollywood film is, of course, it's a Hollywood film. You can't cram all this into no hour and a half. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, a lot of stuff is left out. You know, a lot is as great and fantastic a movie as this was, because it is great and fantastic. There's depths that they could never reach in the hot. Like this would have to be like Roots. You know what I mean? They would need to do like 2 hours a day for like, you know, a week or two or something like that, a series, right? To really even begin to scratch the surface on. And I encourage those to see everything else. Okay, peace, Brother Charles. I also encourage y'all to you know, do your own research on Brother Fred Hampton, because there's been other documentaries and, you know, so on and so forth. There's a wealth of them available on YouTube and so on and so forth. And then the next point that I want to get to and y'all, when I stop, please feel free to chime in on any of these points. The multiculturalism and the Rainbow Coalition thing. Many don't know that that's, Jesse Jackson got it, but I mean, not for nothing. The church and so on and so forth been biting, and the Panthers, and I won't say biting, borrowing, sampling, adopting, adapting, because even in the Black Panthers had a 10-point program. Well, where'd that come from? Well, the Muslims. They got a 10-point thing. Well, here we are in Boston. Y'all ever hear of the 10-point coalition? Where they get that from? See, so it's like some of it is a continuum. Some of them are straight bites, right? With no accreditation or like or going to the formation of the original thing, and they just say that's a great name. I'm gonna just take it and do my own thing. You know what I mean? And then others that are like, adaptations and improvements and so on and so forth. But not for nothing too. I'm gonna try to bring it back. The man that they call Jesus said a lot of times, many will call me Lord, Lord, but will not do what I say. And so is the Black Revolution. Everybody talk black this, black that, but everybody don't do what the Black Revolution requires, right? You know what I mean? It's like, I would, but I want to lose my job. I would, but it's too hard. I might get shot. Whatever. All right. The next part that I want to get to of this is the acting of it. I want to now talk about like the film just on a level of film stuff, just the acting and the cinematography. Ryan Coogler, the Black Panther guy, was in on this thing. But the main person, it was the young dude, Shaka King, who was a young filmmaker out of Brooklyn, young, my age, or maybe a couple years younger than me, filmmaker out of Brooklyn, who he himself, his parents, were revolutionary in that, in that movement type of thing. So this is his, major work. So everything from the directing to the cinematography to this to that, and then the acting. Once again, that brother, when you hear him in an interview or something, he's straight English, hello, socks and bobbies, hello, all that type of stuff. But the dude channeled Fred Hampton, and Fred Hampton has a very unique cadence and way that he speaks, his tone, and it's not just, I'm gonna do a Chicago accent. That's not, because I got my family in Chicago. Like everybody in Chicago don't just talk like that. That he nailed it. I mean, like, once again, I've only seen this before with Denzel and Malcolm. Old boy with Ray Charles, Jamie Foxx with Ray Charles. A lot of people hated on me, but I thought Will Smith did excellent in Ali. There's one other too that is it Forrest Whitaker? I think it's Forrest Whitaker as Idi Amin. I think it's that one. But in any event, there's a couple of folks who really like talk about acting, and you're doing this character that's larger than life, and you really nail it. Like,
don't leave Chadwick Boseman out the convo now. Don't leave him off the list.
Hold on, which one are you talking about? With the James Brown?
Yes, all of them. Anything he's done.
Yeah, but I'm talking about ones where you were doing a person. So the only one that would fit in that category that I'm aware of then would be the James Brown. Like when you're doing another person, like a historical figure.
Well, he also did Jackie.
He's in Ma Rainey now. That's on
Oh
Netflix.
yeah, Ma Rainey, right? Yeah, okay, right. But he's not the main character, and he did the Jackie Robinson, which I haven't seen.
Oh my God, you have to see that.
Okay, so yeah, all right. So I need to see that. And then also too, when I'm talking about channeling, I don't know enough about Jackie Robinson real life, like his like mannerisms and how he talked and all, to know if he really nailed it. So I'd have to do the comparison. But what I'm saying is like Denzel don't even look like Malcolm, and had you believing he was goddamn Malcolm. You understand what I'm saying? And certain things like where people do that are just like, once again, like this dude is like, yo, you're channeling. It's weird. So I got to go check those Chadwick Boseman things and blah, blah, blah. Absolutely. And then the last thing I'm going to bring up is one of the most beautiful things about it. And I don't mind telling y'all, I'm a very confident Black man. I cried like a baby. Oh, like a baby, I cried. There was tears, there was snot. It was crazy. Because the other thing about it is the love story aspect of it. I can't wait to talk to Fred Jr. again, because I've talked to his moms maybe like 2 times in my life, but I've talked to Fred more, and he's obviously more my age, so we can kind of chop it up. Like, his mom's Mother's Day is every goddamn day. And we all should be sending her flowers and cards. And she is exemplary Black woman. And as I'm watching this love story, I'm like, man, I got to get me one. There is nothing like that type of thing right there, where, people have said, oh, behind every great man is a great woman. No, those of us who are conscious, we already know it ain't behind. It's beside, it's with, sometimes it's in front of. You know what I mean? Okay? But you talk about partnership, you talk about king and queen. If you want to get biblical, you talk about being evenly yoked, all this type of thing, finding a helpmeet or a helpmate. Man, if she is not the most gangster woman of the century, she deserves it all. And pregnant, and then the child is born. Literally 1,000 years from now, we write our own Bible, and whoever, like, is this not like a story of, like, she did everything but sleep in a manger? You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you recall, or at least it looked like to me, that woman was covered, because they were shooting bullets in the dark, and they said 99 bullets were shot off in that apartment by the police. And you see she's straddling him and covering him and trying to get him to wake up, but near one bullet hit her or that baby. And then she got up and she was like, I am not shedding a tear. Let's go.
This is what I'm talking about. And once again, too, talking about generationally, like what we talked about before a little bit about, like, losing, and how, like, nowadays the kids ain't like the kids back in the, I don't know. Once again, she was young too. What was he was 21 and she was what, a 45-year-old grown woman? She was young too. Young girl. Okay. And now what I'm saying is they don't make them like that anymore.
If you think about it, the Black Panther Party, they're very disciplined, which I think we're missing nowadays, that level of discipline. And I know, yeah, just like the guy who spoke earlier, I think his name is Charles, he was talking about the Muslims, and they themselves, they're very disciplined. And without that discipline, then you have too many opportunities for, the Judases, the snitches, the coons, and or even the people who twerking. How many times have you seen, we're supposed to be taking care of business, we're fighting for justice, for against this police brutality, and you see grown ass men twerking in front of the police. So you get like a lot of ratchetness. All that is just byproducts of what? Lack of discipline.
Not for nothing, you just said something that was just like incongruous. Like, I just hit that, does not compute. You said grown men twerking. I'm gonna make a t-shirt. Grown men don't twerk, sir. So if you saw some people who looked like men that were twerking, they were not grown men.
Well, I'm just telling.
I know what you're saying. I'm just trying to put a little. I'm just trying to put a flavor on it, because that's what. That's what I'm saying. Like, all I can say, I keep going biblical with it, right? There's a line in the Bible where it says, "Well, as for me and my house, we will worship the Lord." So I don't know how other cats get down. I just know that how things happen, where one of my buddies posted as a joke the other day, there's a whole thing about, this is how light-skinned dudes do this. So this is how light-skinned dudes do this. So, light-skinned dudes be like this. And it's always some like pseudo weird looking craziness, right? And I'm not offended by it, but I'm always like, what light skinned dudes do y'all know? Who do you hang around? Because I don't know. I don't know about that. So this newfangled era, and with all this stuff, and blah blah blah. The same thing like with the kids with the jeans down. I used to talk to them about the skinny jeans and the thing down and the drawers out. And they kind of like, oh, old man, like, oh, you don't understand this stuff. I'm like, nah, dude. I'm functional. I'm like functional. How do you run from the police? Where do you carry your gun? You're supposed to be a thug. Where's your gun at? I could see everything. I could see the crack of your behind. And then two, I also showed them a quick martial art move where I just quite simply lifted my leg up, put it on or about where their pants were hanging down, and I stepped onto see, I'm too strong. I stepped onto the ground and I instantly turned them into a bop bag because now you can't move. Your legs are pinned around your ankles, and all I got to do, bip, 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 bip. You know what I mean? With the proper fist, by the way. Bip, bip, bip. Okay. All right. So in any event, I digressed. So what you're talking about with discipline and all that, yes, exactly. And this is one point that I definitely want to get to y'all because this is a nugget that you could take throughout you. The reason why things like Nation of Islam work, and when Brother Charles Muhammad was speaking, he said, hold on, I want to take out the religious thing for a minute, and then I want to put it back in. The reason why groups like Nation of Islam work, or New Black Panther Party works, or the original Black Panther Party work, is because when you sign up, there is a foundational doctrine that you have to adhere to and sign on to and say, yes, I, Jamal Crawford, believe this, that, and the other, and that is what gives you membership. Okay? You cannot be a born-again Christian unless you believe that Jesus Christ is your personal Lord and Savior and has died for your sins and blah, blah, blah. Other than that, you some other thing, and you might have your own definition or whatever, but that's not it. Okay? If you are a Muslim, you are accepting that there is no God but Allah, all praises due to Allah, so on and so forth. There are things foundationally, foundational things that you have to rock with, or you just not in that, okay? And this is what has happened in our new goofy society, and this is why young kids can claim to be, I'm a Crip, I'm a Blood. You ain't never been through nothing. You don't got no leadership, nobody, no OG, like nothing, boom, I'm a Muslim. Like you ain't never like. So what happens is groups such as the Nation of Islam, New Black Panther Party, at least, and there's problems in there too. Everybody ain't just good inside there either, right? And it ain't like, oh, it's infiltration free. No, it has been infiltrated, both of those organizations. But at least when you're coming in, there's a foundational principle so that when you're standing next to a person next to you, you know within a reasonable degree of certainty that these people that you standing next to believe the same thing that you do. And the problem that happens now with these new movements is, let's take for something, I even shudder to use the term movement. It's in the name, but it's like really not a movement, but the whole Black Lives Matter movement. If you get a Black Lives Matter, look, get me 100 Black Lives Matter people, 2 from each state. Okay, you won't find agreement in there on anything. Anything. What's your favorite potato chip? You will not find agreement. Okay, and that is the problem with a lot of these newfangled movements. It first happened with Occupy, that they say we want a decentralized leadership. We don't, like, nobody's a leader, everybody's a leader, and blah 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 blah. And it sounds good because then it's like it makes everybody feel like, oh well, you know what. But no, actually, no, you need foundational principles to operate on. Okay? Period. That's just science. You know what I mean? And if you don't, then everybody will have what they have now, which is all this willy-nilly stuff.
Yeah, like I said earlier, code of conduct. And just Black Lives Matter, I know a lot of people get mad at me for saying this, but it got to the point where Black Lives Matter is really what they call it, LBGQ thing. You know what I mean? Because earlier you said about people kind of biting other movements. To me, that they're like hijacking. It's like, okay, you're hijacking like a black movement, then there's like 1 minute it's like you're black this, you'll start off, um, police brutality because uh, the wholesale murder of black folks, or rogue police, so on and so forth, and all of a sudden it will kind of quickly go into, oh, the whole gay rights and all that kind of stuff. So
Uh,
I know those are two separate things, but I'm just kind of responding a couple of things you said. But the first thing you said is basically you're talking about code of conduct, the first thing, and then I just kind of threw in response to the Black Lives Matter thing.
Well, let me just say this on the BLM tip. Once again, brother, and you're gonna find, like, I'm gonna do this, and I believe we know each other from Facebook thing, um, um, but like little thing, I'm a stickler for like terminologies and words and timelines and all this. So you said that Black Lives Matter has become into this LGBTQ thing, right? So I just want you to be aware that it was that from the beginning, brother. It was never a movement based on race or politics. It was a sexual a movement based on sexual freedoms and da da da. They hitched their wagon onto what at the time was becoming a hot button issue of police brutality and whatnot. But what I did, because I've been trained to do this, and is study. So from the very moment when Black Lives Matter came out, I researched it. And if anybody goes, or everybody should go right to their website. And if you read there, what did I just talk about? Foundational documents, foundational principles. If you go read their foundational principles, once again, not what all of these 100 different people from across the country think Black Lives Matter means, right? But the people who created it, what their intent was, right, is based around, from the very beginning, around sexual identity, gender, those type of issues, and has less to do with black. And also too, the main problem for me with that is they also made it a point to dismiss, marginalize, minimalize black nationalism, if you will. Well, not if you will, black nationalism. They did that by saying that black nationalism is basically part of this whole thing that they, are against, which is this whole patriarchal, structure. And, basically, if to sum it up, if y'all saw on social media where they said black men are the new white men, or the new white supremacy, I took great offense to that. Super great offense to that. Right? Super, I ain't raped nobody. I ain't lynched nobody. None of that. Please don't, because see, in that they're trying to say, oh, like they're trying to take black men down a peg, but in so doing, you are doing you're adopting a white supremacist tactic. And so it's amazing how some of these people, they're not too bright. A lot of these newfangled people, they don't do a lot of thinking and research. So it's difficult often to have discussions, debates, dialogues with these people, because they shoot from the hip, and the hip bone is attached to the ass bone.
Jamal, if I can add and also correct, it's not the LGBT community. It's the they they did align themselves with BLM, but it was the Black transgender women that have been killed upwards of 60% more during the pandemic. And so there's been this big uptick and attack, and nobody's doing anything about it. So that's why they decided to join the movement as a subset of BLM. So they're not trying to take over. It's not the whole LGBT community. These are Black transgender people who are under attack, who wanted to be highlighted, and they wanted to be safe. They're also a part of BLM, and they just, I mean, I kind of don't blame them. I don't fault them for it.
I
But
mean, I don't.
it's not being hijacked by any stretch of the imagination.
Hold on, but stop, Jackie, because once again, I said that I deal with truth and I deal with history and all that. I don't know if you've studied it or not, but what you said, and I understand it, but that's just not true. Okay.
Well, I saw the interview with the woman who started that Leggett thing. So
Okay.
okay, so you take it from there.
Yep. So what I'm saying is, from the beginning, right? The three women who started off BLM, all of which who are lesbian women, right? All of which, if you read the foundational documents, had transgender stuff and lesbian stuff and LGBTQ, the whole thing in there from the very beginning, day one. So it's not, oh, this has happened since the pandemic and there's been an uptick. And once again, I'm not a hater, because trust me, I don't care. When I say I don't care, doesn't mean I don't, whatever you are, I don't care. I'm into data. So when we say that there's this uptick of transgender women, so first of all, a transgender woman, I want to make sure my definition is correct, is a person that was born a man that then lives their life as a woman, meaning that a transgender man would be a person that was born a woman and then lives their life as a man. Okay, so if transgender women now, if there's an uptick in this, right, which an uptick, 60% more, right, that's a percentage, based on what was the number before, and then what are the other numbers, and why are we plucking these subsets out of Black people killed overall? That's my thing. Because see, how many Black people were killed last year? And then if we do that, well, how many were short? How many were fat? How many were tall? How many were skinny? How many were light skinned? How many were dark skinned? How many were crippled? How many were blind? How many were crazy? How many were deaf? How many had buck teeth? How many had braces? How many, you know what I mean? What are we doing? So at some point, I'm all for it. Somebody's just going to need to show me the data. And they don't even need to show me the data, because I've looked at a lot of the data myself. And I'm just going to tell you that this whole thing about this emergency that's happening now with transgender people across the country, it's an exaggeration. And not to say that every transgender person who gets killed, it's not a tragedy. It is. But I'm just telling you that this trend of transgender people getting killed or going to prison in higher rates than everybody else, you can't prove that.
And just to go back to your point about the Rainbow Coalition, Jesse Jackson tried to claim that, but saying here that it was started with Fred Hampton. And just when you see the movie, the whole multiculturalism was different back then than it is today, because I think back then it was more like forming alliances, but in 2021 it's more like multiculturalism. It's more like who's going to get in front of the line instead of working together, kind of like what we're talking about now. Kind of like you have, okay, I guess somebody goes out a statistic about transgender getting, killed and so on and so forth. And I mean, you can look at the statistics, how much of the victims are of other transgenders, and I mean, it becomes a distraction when you kind of, you kind of think about it, So to me, multiculturalism kind of turned to something different than it was back then. You know what I mean? And just to throw something else out there about the movie, and I've heard this before, where you have the disciples and you have other prominent gangs, kind of change their tune, kind of like what you were saying about. I call it code of conduct. You called it something else. I can't think of what name you put to it, but
Foundational principles.
yeah, thank you. So they were given foundational principles or code of conduct, whatever you want to call it, right? So therefore, they moved differently. Well, they were in a process of moving differently. Because without that, what do you have? You have, back in the mid '80s, you have all this black on black violence, and so on and so forth, and it goes back to lack of discipline And how do you get this discipline? You have to start with a foundation. You have to start with a code of conduct. Okay. So I think multiculturalism was different, meant something different than it does now, because right now it's just about hijacking and putting Black folks at the back of the bus when it comes to, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, let's do this. Let's build on right quick the foundational principles versus the code of conduct, because I just want folks to be clear, because once again, hopefully we take away stuff from here that folks can use later on and whatever they're doing. So those are two different things. The foundational principles are things like I love my people, I value women, I believe that there is a God, blah blah blah. Okay, now a code of conduct is going to be guided by the foundational principles. So because I love my people, I'm not going to steal from them. That's a code of conduct. I'm not going to steal from the people. Because I value women and children, I'm not going to take advantage of women and children. That's conduct that is informed by your foundational principles. So the things that we believe, if you've heard the sayings like, know better, act better, know better, do better, whatever, those type of things. So we're supposed to be guided by that which we know. And, if you was raised by wolves or something, you're going to act like a heathen. You know what I mean? If you've been civilized, then your conduct is going to become better based on
yeah.
thinking. Yep. So, and anybody else, please y'all chime in too, because remember we would talk. And the multiculturalism piece. There was always a great relationship. Or not always, but I'm saying a great relationship became because of not because of primarily in New York, but like the Blacks and the Puerto Ricans and that whole young lord thing was already linked up. And unlike now, so for instance, we've now got a little bit of a truce between the Crips and the Bloods in LA or whatever. Boy, I really wish, we could cross that black and that brown divide, because if the essay is from, La Raza, you know what I mean, and the hood link up, that's really the end game right there. But once again, a Puerto Rican, a Dominican on the East Coast, a Cuban in Miami is a whole different culture and a mindset from primarily Mexicans on the West Coast. And so a lot of the way that these cultures are shaped up, tribalism and all this pitted us against each other. But here in Boston, for instance, or New York or whatever, we all grew up with a Puerto Rican or had a little Puerto Rican girlfriend, or you know what I mean, whatever, eating some food or going to the festival. So it wasn't like a thing where it was like, a big clash against the cultures as it has panned out in some other places around the country. But that relationship between, particularly the multiculturalism between Black and brown, that I'm pretty staunch when it comes to it. The whole unity thing with poor white people, that's gonna take some doing for me. And I tell you why. I don't trust them. I believe that at the earliest opportunity, they will easily assimilate back into the larger group. If that larger group says, hey, we're gonna take you in, they will quickly turn against the other poor people in the group and try to cash in on their white privilege. And not for nothing, I don't know if y'all ever saw this YouTube video of this homeless dude. But there was like a straight homeless dude, like, and I mean, when I say homeless, no disparaging the homeless, but he was hurting. You know what I mean? He was like really disheveled, matted, beard, hair, long fingernails, the whole thing. They took this dude up in whatever, showered him, shaved him, gave him a little bullshit resume, This dude walked in and got a job. Now, at that particular time, y'all, I was going through it in myself because at that time I was under a court mandate to find a job, and I'm already self-employed, but whatever. They wanted me to get a job, and I had to put out 10. I had to do 10 applications per week. So in a month, that was 40 applications. You know, your boy didn't get a call back. Meanwhile, and you know, Google me, I'm good. Meanwhile, they took this white man literally off the street, gave him a shower, took him to Fantastic Sam's or Supercuts or whatever it was, and he was off to the, got him a little suit from Morgan Memorial or whatever. He was off to the races. You look like good money. So my belief, my experience, my study has shown that I don't believe that the white man, the poor white man, poor white people will totally divorce themselves from the ultimate sway and benefit of the carrot dangling of white privilege. Too many of them want it. That's what they've wanted their whole life. That's why Donald Trump won. That's why they still love Donald Trump. Donald Trump's not one of them. He laughs at them. Okay? But the guy who's a truck driver in Kentucky somewhere with mud all over the back of his truck feels like he and Trump are simpatico. Trump ain't letting you in Mar-a-Lago. Maybe to, you know, get a gator out the Gulf swamp or something like that. But this is what we're dealing with. So they still feel a kinship there.
But I
I'm
would
sorry.
also say one of the issues is, I think for the longest time, politicians and rich white people have been trying to set poor whites and poor blacks against each other. And so poor whites have been hearing that for years and buying it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like that song. Oh, there's a song by I can't remember, but he talks about that, like the ways that politicians would set the poor whites and the poor blacks against each other, and in some ways let the poor whites do the nasty work, like do the lynching or whatever, like that kind of thing.
Well, Michelle Alexander has a book. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I can't think of it right now.
New Jim
But
Crow?
there you go. And in the book, it talked about how the poor whites formed an alliance with the slaves, and they were kicking ass. But what happened was the slavers went to the poor whites. So it was like, you know, they give them a little bit of trinkets here and there. They give them some position, you know, and then they took it. You know what I'm saying? And this is where you get kind of like a history of the police. And if you notice, like a lot of firemen are Irish and all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of that kind of stems from slavery. It's like we've had alliances before. And there was a movie called Free State of, I forgot the name of it. Free State of
Free
King
State of
somebody.
Jones.
There you go. And so there's a history of poor white people and black people fighting side by side, but it didn't last because usually the white elites would go to the folks that once formed an alliance with us and offer them something a little bit more. Because basically, I hate to say it, but whites want that privilege, because that's what white supremacy is. It's getting that privilege, is getting the resources and so on and so forth. And the poor whites, they're not a part of that, but they're offered a part of that. You know, they've sold out. You know, they sold us out. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, this has historically this has happened. Right now, in 2021, if you talk to white folks, how many of them are down to even you know, form alliance with us? You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's no incentive right now. So, like I said, times have changed.
Well, but this is what I'm saying though too. I mean, at least for me, I'm not like I don't do alliances with white people. That's just me. You know what I mean? I think that that's been an error. I think that so it's almost like you want a relationship with like a woman. You want a relationship with this woman. Okay. You've known her for a long time. You want to get together and fix things, or does she need to fix things first, and you need to fix things first, and then y'all get together? Okay. So what I'm saying is that I know that this person is abusive, a vicious drunk, a drug addict, and I have no interest in developing a relationship at this point until they go to rehab, get some counseling, and show me that they've changed their ways. So in order for me to be interested in joining with white people, there would have to be such a groundswell movement of like a justice movement amongst white people that corrected their own stuff. Where I would be like, wow, look at these white people. Wow, they really trying. Look at them. Okay, go white people. But I haven't felt that. And not for nothing, once again, based on my study experience and history, I don't think I'm ever going to feel that. I actually don't believe it's in the culture of European people to do that type of self-reflection, accountability, or I just don't believe it. So I would have to see it, and that's one of those things. I would just have to see it. Maybe killer whales do walk on land. I just need to see it. You know what I mean? So, all right, y'all. So, it is 9:00 now. We are on the wind down thing. I just want to get back now to the movie thing because we don't talked about, all sorts of things and everything. And it's all related and it's all good. It's all good conversation. But let's get back to the thing. Anybody else with any points on, remember the things that I have brought up. Now we've kind of done the Rainbow Coalition thing, the multiculturalism. But now anything specifically about the love story or the acting specifically?
Well, the acting, I personally, I know a lot of people are suspicious because there was a lot of fighting over the past couple of years of British actors, black folks, British actors taking roles, kind of like Harriet Tubman, like playing roles that are foundational Black America or whatever Black folks in America, whatever what terminology you want to use. Now, for me personally, I think Daniel did a very, very good job, like you said earlier. And I think overall the directing was fabulous. The cinematography. This was basically a very good film. So I know a lot of people the subject matter that this covers is probably that's probably too heavy for a lot of people, especially nowadays. But it was a good movie in and of itself. Just separate from what it was about topically. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just talking about just the art of it. I mean, everything was just on point. So that's my opinion on that.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the connection that they made. I mean, Chairman was not, I mean, he was intelligent in his own right, but he wasn't afraid to be vulnerable with her. And the way that, when she spoke to him after hearing his speech, he didn't get indignant with her. He welcomed the conversation. He remembered her later. I mean, and then the writings and the poems and the letters that they shared and the context and the way she explained things and he really listened. I mean, that's just a rarity these days. And it was just so beautiful to see. I thought it was so amazingly depicted.
Absolutely, me too. And as a poet too, that also was another aspect where I was just touched at how words can really do that. And also too, men who appear hard, to the world, in my revolutionary training, we also learned that, you know, a warrior, right? Like you this fierce warrior, right? But what are you fighting for? You go off and you go fight these wars and you go kill these big beasts and da, da, da. But you do that to come back to the village, right? With the woman and the child, and then you're soft, right? So the whole thing is to be fierce with your enemy, right? And soft with your people. Right. And so that kind of vulnerability, like you say, it's lost. But like, so a guy like me, this is why I probably would be screwed up in my head had I been told my whole life that, like, men don't do this, men don't do that. You know what I mean? I had the blessing of being around men that showed me what real manhood is, right? The real manhood is kindness, gentleness, tenderness, and will also smack the taste out your mouth if you move wrong, right? So it's a combination. It's all of that. And when I say smack the taste out your mouth, of course, I'm not talking about the woman. I'm talking about,
Okay, good.
yeah, no, I'm talking about the enemy.
I
That's what I'm
understood you,
saying.
Jamal. I got
Okay,
you.
good. I'm just
Yeah,
glad you
I'm talking
clarified
about
that.
the enemy. No, that's the point.
Because you're
Right.
right there, you almost lost me. Okay.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. No, fierce with the
James,
enemy, but soft with the woman and the child. A lot of people, my own family included, when my daughter was born, they were almost surprised to see me on the floor with my daughter with like Legos and little blocks. And it's like, what did you think I was going to be doing? Like kicking her down the street with rocks or something? Like, you know what I mean? What do you think is going on here? Or asking, my family used to ask me when my daughter come, well, what's she gonna eat? What you think I can't cook? I cook, I do poetry, I did, and I got a machete within, 4 feet of me right now in action. You know what I mean? But it's all a part of the thing. And so that type of humanity showing how somebody can, yes, be fierce and be strong, be a warrior, but also when it comes to the woman and the child, be tender. And also those moments of, the poetry and all that. One moment I thought that was real funny and real cute, was when I got a little mad. He's like, hold on, woman, we're on the Philistine. Right?
I thought that was cute too.
Right.
She's like,
Yeah, oh, why I gotta be a Philistine?
Yeah, the actress who played the love interest. I think she did a very fantastic job. At any time you can see positive relationship between a black man and a black woman, I have to
Woman,
appreciate it. Because let
that
me
was
tell you something. If you look at movies and television over the past several years, you don't see that. And when you do see a black man and black woman together, they're in a toxic relationship, they're divorced, um, or they're interracial, or they get, so like when I'm talking about black man, black woman, heterosexual relationship, positive, healthy relationship, you don't see that very often. So when you do see it, you have to appreciate it because they don't show that in film and television anymore nowadays.
yeah, since good times. I mean, so when have you seen a Florida and James character? The way they related and connected and took care of family, took care of business.
and I mean, and this just had come up in the American Skin conversation too, because American Skin also had a nice depiction of the black and female, black male and female relationship. Even though they weren't together and whatnot, but it was cooperative and so on and so forth. And just for points here, the sister's name, Dominique Fishback. All right, Dominique Fishback plays Mama and Jerry. All right.
The way she carried herself, when she got pregnant, she wasn't dramatic and she wasn't falling out. She wasn't playing, weak and victim. She just, I mean, she was in it still hard and, in the game, and she just really held such a solid demeanor about herself. It was very, I don't know, lost for the right descriptive word for it, but it was very powerful.
No,
Very well.
absolutely. And everybody's talking now about, like, awards for this film or whatever. Hopefully the film gets awarded itself overall as a film, but certainly these actors in it were standouts. And speaking of sisters too, one flaw I'm gonna say with the film is I fell in love with the sister who was so bad, the sister with the fro and all that, the sister with the fro and all that. She put the boot up and said, "Comrade, get my boot." You know what I mean? That's it.
Yes.
But then after the shootout, when she went to jail, that was it.
Mm,
So I would have liked, and I know it's Hollywood, and I know it's only an hour and a half movie or whatever, but I would have liked a little, on what comes. And then also too with these characters, if who's who is who's who, because so for instance, um, like in Malcolm X with Spike Lee's Malcolm X, some characters are compiled. You could have 3 or 4 different characters that they put into one to
mm,
tell a story or to move the story along or what have you. So in here, for instance, Mark Clark was
mm.
not really prominently featured, who was of course killed with Fred Hampton, right?
Oh, the one that was
Um,
in front of the door.
exactly.
Making-
Like, there's a lot of things that I think in terms of, like, you got a main character, you got a love interest, you got the villain, then you got the super villain. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want anybody to think that this was actually like a 100% historically accurate portrayal, because it was not. It's still Hollywood. They got to do what they got to do to, once again, to cram all this into an hour and a half. But what they did with the storytelling, particularly those relationships, yeah,
So,
I thought was great.
so the scene in which he's speaking, and he thinks he's talking about killing pigs, or no, he's talking about like he might die or there's something. It's really powerful because you see her objecting, like, no, I don't want you to die. And then you see her seeing the crowd getting so excited, and you see her kind of changing and realize that's sort of his mission, or calling, or purpose for being on earth. And then you see the tears on her going down her face. To me, that whole scene, that like it maybe was 2 minutes, that was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Just there was something about it, like her loyalty, her understanding of his dedication and his mission on earth. I don't know, that blew me away.
It reminded me a little bit of Coretta Scott King. It's just like those women, but right next to their man, knowing their man might be taken out, but this is their calling.
It's Coretta, it's Betty Shabazz, it's Winnie Mandela, it's Steve Biko's wife. I mean, we've seen this in the movies, time and time again, not always depicted, to the level of strength that we wanted or what have you. But yeah, this is age old. And once again, not women that are behind their man, but women that are with their man, right there with them, knee deep in the business, and the strength that it takes. Let's use Malcolm X's wife for a hot minute, Betty Shabazz. Your husband is out, he's off in Detroit, Philadelphia, Chicago. He's doing speeches every doggone week. He's gone, no cable television, this is so you just home alone, and then the phone ringing all the damn time. Ring, 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 ring. And it's always somebody telling you that they want to kill you, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, blah, blah, blah. The little phone conversations you do get to talk to your mama or your auntie or whoever, your little girlfriend or whatever, you can hear the clicks in the background, they're listening to the, what you're gonna do that day. I gotta do laundry, I got all of that. And so the oppression that these women went through, it's not just that the man was in the struggle, the woman was right there with him. And in many cases, even with a higher level of danger, because once again, if the police bust up in, Fred Hampton might feel like, okay, well, boom, I can knuckle up. Here you got a pregnant woman with you. See, so now it becomes, she had a whole nother level of threat over her head because now she is with child. It becomes deeper, so this whole thing is just really the level of sacrifice that this sister and so many other sisters did, and just the level of love. Like I said, and I mean, I really, when I say I need to get me one, not playing like that. When I think about the model of love or the model of like what I want for a woman, rappers talk about my ride or die. You know what I mean? And then, they all for all the wrong reasons. But like to find that person that is really going to be there through thick and thin not in a superficial manner, but in a real way, that is more precious than gold.
I was thankful that they didn't abuse her when they arrested her. When she came out of the room, they just, the guy, he stuck the gun near her belly, but I was just like, please let that be all that happens. I don't think I can handle anything else.
Well, once again, I don't know that that's the entire story either.
Right, but I'm just saying for what they depicted, that was enough for me.
Exactly. And so yeah. And not only that, I mean, of course, the torture and oppression and repression that she has experienced and Fred Jr. has experienced. I mean, shit, they locked up Fred Jr. some years back, on some bogusness. So they're like, it ain't stopped. They still on their necks. And so they still feeling them things. And only because so many people got their eyes on it is, enables them to be able to but I mean, like, I don't want nobody to think that, this was just a off into the sunset, type of thing. The whole thing has continued.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack here, man. One of the things that you said earlier about this being only hour and a half, like actually 2 hours, that's still not a lot of time, considering there's so much material there. But I will say this, that you said something about a series. Now, if you think about the last Black Panther movie that's been out, Spike Lee did do one. It was like a one-man stage play with Huey P. Newton. Probably a lot of people don't know about. I think it was on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on Netflix.
The
That
Huey
happened.
P.
Yeah,
The Huey P.
yeah.
Story with Roger Guinevere Smith.
There you go. I don't think a lot of people know about that one. And then even before that, um, you had Malcolm X that came out in the early '90s, and then like probably a little bit after that is the Panther movie by Mario Van Peebles. So my thing is this, is that you have in like 10, 20-year gaps between movies that address these topics on Black Panther history, just kind of like these prominent figures. Never mind a whole series on it. That would be an excellent idea. But unfortunately, um, the only way I could see that happening, if Black folks, I mean, Tyler Perry has his studios, it would have to be Black people would have to finance these projects. Because can you imagine? Do you think Hollywood or just the dominant society in the film industry, television industry, actually greenlighting such projects? You get what I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
do. Yeah, I do. And I'll tell you why. Because capitalism. So, you know, for years they were talking about doing the Black Panther movie, the comic book superhero Black Panther. For years they were talking about doing it, and mad people were hating on it. Finally gets done. It's the biggest grossing superhero movie they've ever done. So now they're like, oh shit. Okay. So yeah, they don't care. Because let me tell you one thing about being in power, you know what I mean, for this white structure. They don't care. They're not worried. They're not scared. It's not like what people, in my opinion, my experience, my study, unlike what people think, like, yo, they don't put the information out there because if people had the information, then they're gonna do something. What more information do you need? Ain't nobody gonna do nothing. That's a fact. I mean, every time they thought something was gonna do something, the something never happened. Rodney King, okay, LA riots. They was like, LA riots is gonna spread all across America. Did it? No. When I was a kid, Roots came out in school. A couple white boys got smacked for talking greasy. That's about it. You see what I'm saying? Malcolm X, we saw him do the march and everything, all that. Everybody was inspired. Did folks start lining up and marching around? Nope. We saw Posse. We saw, give us free. So no, I don't think that they really care like we think that they caring. I think that what needs to happen is that folks need to develop scripts that are that. And I also do believe in mainstream. And not for nothing, some of these people, I would rock with mainstream Hollywood before I would with some of ours. So I'll tell you who I would not rock with. Tyler Perry. I couldn't. Oprah Winfrey could give me money, but she couldn't be involved. I would take her money, but she couldn't be involved. You know what I mean? She could see the final product or something. And if y'all know, people like Danny Glover have been going around Hollywood for 20 years, still trying to get the movie on the Haitian Revolution done. And he's Danny Glover. And he already paid his homage. He paid the piper by carrying around Mel Gibson and kissing the white man in his buddy flick, Lethal Weapon. Right? So some of it just doesn't matter. I don't know. I just think we need more. And also too, now technology is out there. So some of this, damn it, if you can't make a live action film, make the cartoon or make the animated, the video animation version. Make the video game. I don't care what you do. Make Nat Turner the video game. Somebody. I want to play that. Sister Deanna, you have something to say? You coming in?
Hey, brother. No, I don't have anything to say. I'm just listening to the conversation. I saw the movie when it came out on HBO Max, and to be quite honest, like that was my first time really hearing about Fred Hampton. I thought the movie was powerful. I'm actually teaching a session on just Black injustice and racial profiling and police brutality at my job, which I had to fight to do. And I was going to be using kind of like a lot of the concept from the movie. So I just wanted to kind of hear what other people thought about the movie. I thought it was incredible. Although I know that all the pieces in it wasn't factual, I thought it was absolutely outstanding. And it was really a good depiction of his life and his legacy. So I was really glad to hear the story and want to share it and just kind of bring light to who he was and what he did for Black people and Black liberation.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming in.
My pleasure.
Hopefully, as I've kind of said, I think that I'm going to reach out to Fred Hampton Jr. Hopefully we can have a discussion, open that up for a community forum. I just gotta obviously see what his schedule is looking like. I know right now it's gotta be goofy. But yeah, we needs to peeps that. Okay, and anybody else too, just in general, I think I've covered all the stuff that I want to hit on. And now, as we go into the wrap up part of this thing, I just want to make sure anybody else, chime in with anything else that we didn't cover that, you might want to just random thoughts, whatever else you got.
Well, I started watching the movie late last night, so I didn't get through all the extras. But I recommend people check those out after watching the movie because they do have an interview with his son and some other things that is enlightening. It's good to hear his take on things and other stuff that he's doing. So they do have that on HBO Max.
Well, I was really just struck by the use of and fear in getting the informant to get involved, fear in just fear as a motivator for people to do bad things. Um, that the moment that really got to me was, or the different moments, but one moment was when the FBI agent that was the handler of the infiltrator was there and sort of saying, this isn't, he was kind of questioning, it doesn't really seem right. And then his supervisor says, well, you have an 8-month-old daughter, right? Do you want to live in a world where there'll be raping and pillaging and murder? Kind of like if you don't take Fred Hampton out or whatever it was exactly, you don't cooperate with us, that's what'll happen. He went first to interracial dating, and then he went to rape, pillage, murder. Like, if we let these Black people alone, that's what will happen. So you have to be involved in this. I was just interested in the manipulation of fear. And I feel like Trump was a master at that. And I think the white rich politicians in the South were a master of getting the whites like fearful. You know what I mean? And I think that's a part of it's not just, so I'm not rich. I mean, I'm not poor. I'm not super rich, but I'm not poor. And I see that in poor whites, like a fear. Like, we don't have much. We don't want anyone to get what little we have. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have enough. You know what I mean? That sort of, I don't know. I just see the use of fear and blame. So I just thought, whenever you can get people to believe in fear, you got them.
And that's what's crazy too, because it's an illogical fear.
Of course, yes.
Because poor white people who, let's say, see Black people as the enemy, but generally the one that told them that, the other white people, is the one that's been screwing them over the whole time.
Of course, yeah, of course.
They're not in the proximity. They don't know enough Black people to have gotten screwed by a Black person.
Well, and also there's a cartoon that I just really, it feels so real to me. There's a rich white guy and he's got like 100 cookies, and then the poor white guy has 2 cookies, and he's looking, and then they look at the I don't know, it's Latino or Black, and say, he's trying to get your cookies. When it's 100 to 2 to 1, it's like,
exactly,
who's got the cookies?
And also too, the whole, what you talk about, the fear of the interracial dating and the raping and the pillaging, that's an old Ku Klux Klan line. These Black, they're gonna get your women. They're gonna remember too. This also goes into the marijuana thing, because remember, that's that wacky tobacco. It'll make them, or the Indians with the liquor. Look, they're gonna rape your women. They're gonna. And what's funny about that is, once again, the illogical fear, because who is the number one raper in the world? Who is the number one pillager of the world?
Well, the statistics show that who I'm going to get raped by, if I was going to get raped, is always the race of whoever I'm dating.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I get that. We're talking about modern. No, we're talking about modern times now.
No, but I just mean in general, I think women are sort of like, yeah.
You're talking about in general, modern times. Those are crimes of proximity, right?
Yeah. So it's just, so the sphere of Black men is yeah.
You're missing my point. Because you're talking, okay, that's modern context. What I'm talking about historically.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Europeans were the key rapists of the world. They used it as a tool of subjugation, of desecration. I mean, these are people who would go take over something, rape the women and the animals. Yeah, I know, it's disgusting. But that's my point.
Gotcha.
Whereas in African culture, I'm not one of these romanticizing, fanciful people that says rape never happened in Africa, because that's not true. What I'm saying, it was not a part of our integral, like what we do culturally. Like Romans, Greeks, English, like they had holidays and stuff dedicated to this, and just like rape and like have your brother's wife, and how do we get the word fuck? Fornication under consent of king, and the king had rights to your wife before you did, and da 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 da. And why are there little squires and little da da da? Because they all had little boys with them, and so all I'm saying is that a lot of these sexual things were projections. A lot of the barbaric things were projections. Oh, here's a great one. What are Indians known for? Scalping. Who really did the scalping? White people.
Wow.
It was the white people who were scalping Indians. But yet, years later, we get the image of the barbarian Indian that was running around, scalp 'em, heap 'em, big white man, pale faces. And it's just, once again, they say, who gonna tell the tale, right? The lion or the hunter, right? When the hunter tells the tale, he's always the hero. Lion got a different perspective.
Exactly.
Also,
so we need to really think about it.
Yeah, but it's interesting also, I read something by Ida B. Wells, and she was talking about they weren't saying a white woman was raped because they believed it. They were saying it because they wanted as an excuse to kill a black man.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Because by and large, black men were not running around. Now, this is in modern times, like Emmett Till's time, 1950s, or slavery. By and large, black men were not running around raping white women. Okay. Talk about fear again, because they knew the consequences. B, brothers then, like, I don't like that white woman. I got me a little black son at home. Okay, they would stick to their own race more, right? So this whole notion of this black rapist, even at that time, was completely crazy. Now who was raping at that time? Because that white man was raping all of them black women. Up until my grandmother put me on to this, right? And it super makes sense. So all this time, the white man has called us monkeys, animals, filthy, disgusting, all this, right? Never stopped them from fucking us though, huh?
Yeah.
So that's deep. So put that on to the context of this white man has been raping our women since they first penetrated the interior of Africa, on through the transatlantic slave trade, on the boats. Then when they got here to the various plantations, of course, not only in America, but Brazil, the Caribbean, England, France, Spain, Portugal, Dutch, am I forgetting anybody? The Netherlands, Russia, you name it. We were called the rapists and the sexual deviants, but it was not us. It was the white European male all along, and still is, by the way. That's why, of course, what we know, the higher propensity for serial killers, the higher propensity. Once again, do black men rape people? Absolutely. Do black men rape black women? Absolutely. Do black men rape black women that are close to them and around them? Absolutely. And assault them and kill them and beat them up and violate them in every manner of way? Absolutely. Who is the biggest violator, though, when it comes to violence against women, children, strangers, whatever? You're going to find that the most aggressive person in society is the white male. But yet they have called the black male the super predator. I would make a case the white male is the super predator.
I also think for me, what's interesting is they were always supposedly protecting white women. And I'm going to guess some of those men were also beating the same white women they were saying they were protecting.
You're gonna guess?
Well, no, I'm not guessing. I'm
Yeah.
sure of it. Like,
No.
I mean,
And raping, once again, and raping. Watch this. Back to the whole European thing. I'll give you a couple of little things, revolutionary thing. This is just funny for white people, and we're gonna be getting off soon, but this is funny. All right, so for a black guy like me, I used to teach this to schools and stuff like this. Okay, so one, we know what we know from history. We know cartoons, our own anecdotal experience, or whatever. Have you ever seen a black caveman? Like a depiction of a black caveman? Not even in cartoons or nothing, huh? Even on the Flintstones. There was never, Tyrone Blackrock, the neighbor. None of that.
the
Right?
neighbor. Yeah.
Right. None of that. Okay. So you've never seen a depiction of black cave people at all. Okay, another thing. Have you ever seen the evolution chart? You know how it starts off with the little chimpanzee?
Yep.
And then at the other end, what's at the other end?
Oh, it's the white dude.
Yeah, a white dude. Because it's a man, but it's not like any man, it's a white man. So all this time where you monkeys, we're monkeys, and da. Okay, a couple other things. Do you know it's against federal law to shave a monkey? You know what happens if you shave a monkey?
No.
It'll look like Danny DeVito. Because actually monkeys and gorillas and all that stuff are not black. Underneath that, the pigment is pinkish, white. Okay? So there's a lot of little things that what happened when they tried to prove their false theory of the superior man, the Uberman, white supremacy and all this. Our brains are smaller and we have tails and all this. And the more that they tried to associate us to all these negative images, the more that they found that it was themselves. Okay, great. So now we already established those types of things, which are just funny and anecdotal, but those are actual facts that I've argued this with Harvard professors. It fucks them up. Okay. Then the last thing. Now, we know there's no black cavemen. Okay. We don't know much about cavemen. But one thing we know is, well, first of all, there were other cave people, so that they had to be doing hoochie coochie at some point. So what was a caveman's love ritual or mating ritual? How did a caveman get a woman? We've been taught this in cartoons, the movies, the whole thing. How did a caveman get a woman?
Clubbed her over the head.
Clubbed her over the head. And then what did he do?
Dragged her.
Dragged her by what?
Her hair.
By her hair. Where?
To the cave.
Back to the cave. Okay. So all I'm saying is that what I have even made a plea, and it's funny because there's been many white women who are attracted to me in my life, who can blame them? But one thing I would always say to them, in jest is, I get it. Because if anybody knows about the brutality of the white man, it's the white woman. You got to live with him. Okay? You got to sleep with him. Okay? And after he done went off and did whatever, mischief he created in the world or whatever, wreaking havoc, then he comes back home and now he's going to wreak some havoc at home with his own wife and children. Once again, the height of European civilization, the golden age. This was what we all are taught. All the great kings and queens. What did they do? Wife? Did you just look at me? Off with her head. They were killing their wives. They were screwing their sisters. Little kids. You have a little son. You're so proud of your little son. And one day he comes home, he looks at you funny. You're like, oh, I think he wants to be king. Kill him. This is the history. So when I'm talking about this aggression and all these types of things where black men, black people have been called rapists, killers, savages, barbarians, brutes, blah 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 blah. It's just it's actually funny when you actually look at the history. Like, wow, how dare you? The noiva you. Okay. So just once again, this is what Malcolm said. History is, well, actually John Henry Clark. History is, the pursuit of study that is best suited to reward its students. So, you don't know what you don't know. And knowing these types of things puts a frame on it where now you like, okay, we Africans were told, you ain't nothing, you've never contributed anything to the planet, you're crap, you're lazy, you don't do anything. White people were told, you're wonderful, you're great, you're related to God, you're Jesus, you're everything. It's great. Science, art, all that, wonderful. And now for generations, people have believed this crap. And we need to undo it. And then you actually know, oh, no, actually, math, science, astronomy, astrology, chemistry, language, writing, it's all African. Architect, all African, not European, African.
And this is the thing that was scaring the hell out of Trump, because he said people were starting to actually rewrite the history books because they realized some of the stuff was not accurate. And he started telling schools districts, you change the history books, you're going to lose federal funds, because he don't want the truth to be told.
Not for nothing. Do you know who the number one? Do you know who the number one manufacturer of textbooks is in the country?
Oh.
Right out of Texas, Miss Laura Bush.
Wow.
Laura Bush is her own millionaire outside of George. She's been a millionaire. This has been her business for the past 20, 30 years. In fact, under Menino, Boston Public Schools, that's where they got most of their books, probably still do to this day. Texas is the largest distributor of school books in the country. They are also the ones who took Malcolm X out. They it was a bunch of every controversy that you've heard around educational stuff happened with them. The Tom Sawyer nigger controversy, like nigger being in the Tom Sawyer and the Huck Finn books, and like all of them types of things were swirling around that. Black history curriculum, all of that type of stuff. They have held a tight grip on the curriculums for a long time. And, she's kind of touted as an education person, but they are not so good on when it comes to the diversity, let me just say.
So when I was in college, because I was getting a psychology degree, I had to take a class called The Black Experience. And in one of the classes, she just put name after name out there of like 30, 40 names. And besides George Washington Carver, I hadn't heard of any of them. And then we all had to do reports on them. And what was fascinating was they were all people who'd done big things that we'd never heard about, that were like pulled out of the history books and all Black. So it was just like, that was kind of, that was that moment. I mean, yes, I read and I did research and I presented on somebody, but what really struck me was how many names she could read that I never heard of.
Well, this is why too, not for nothing, the sister who came on here, she's gone now, but Deanna, like she had said, she was really unfamiliar with this story. Some people have said, well, I didn't know all of these types of things or what have you. Da, da, da. So what I'm gonna say is that shows me what a horrible job we have done in terms of making this the popular shit. Because, I could go to somewhere obscure, some rural place in Africa, and some dude got a Lil Wayne shirt on. You know what I mean? So it's like, or everybody knows who Michael Jordan is, or this, that, the other. But we don't know the Black inventors, the Black scholars, the Black revolutionaries, and so on and so forth. And so that's what I'm saying. We need to make those people as popular as the Lil Waynes of the world and so on and so forth. And not for nothing, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And even why, which is why what the brother kept mentioning like movies or whatever. And my memory be bad too, but when he's mentioning it, that's why I can call it off like that, because I've watched all of these things. I've studied all these things. It takes time. I'm also good at PlayStation, and it took time for me to get good at a game. So it takes time to get good at history, or it took time for me to get good at poetry, or it takes time to, you got to put it in. My buddies who are good at basketball, it took time. So we have to figure out, I believe, we need a dedication that we're going to put more time into these type of things and do a better job of promoting and spreading the word, particularly showing this to young people, and not just this, but, a bunch of things. Just this, I'm like, damn, we could do a film discussion every week if I had a dedicated group of people who we knew was going to watch all these films or rewatch them.
Okay.
What brother just brought up, like the other movie Panther, or shit, we can go watch, Posse. There's a plethora of films that we could watch and do this, but it requires dedication. And then it requires, like, not for nothing, I don't want to just do it if it's like 10 people. That's nice, but I want it to, like, each one reach one, teach one. Like, we need to have 50, 100 people. No different than when I do like a community meeting in real life. I want like 100 people there, and particularly now because it is Zoom and online, I'm figuring this is easier now because everybody could be home and chilling and, have a little beer, have a little pizza, whatever you want to do, and let's chop it up. So, all right. Well, anybody else got anything to say before we get off of here?
What's our next movie?
I gotta figure it out now.
Just the three of us. I just want to thank you, Jamal. I always enjoy connecting with you, and your whole intellectual tip. That's what really keeps me connected to you. That's a thrill of mine. And so, thank you for the clarity. Thank you for your hard work, and all of that. Love you much.
Give thanks. Love you back. All right.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks to both of you, and thank you for organizing and sharing your knowledge, and just, yeah, I appreciate it. And I also appreciate all your stuff you do. I've worked with DYS kids, and I know definitely some of them have been jacked up by the police, or a lot of them have been. So I appreciate your work around the police a lot because of that.
I would love to be able to do this type of thing inside DYS. If we got a good counselor who's in a DYS facility, who I know the kids can't necessarily use the internet, but the group leader or whatever can. And, we could do a film discussion night with the kids in there. If somebody who works inside says, okay, Wednesday, we're going to show them this film. And then Thursday, we'll have a discussion. Bang, bang, bang. We just need somebody who's willing inside. See, look, we need to do reverse infiltration. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
absolutely. Because they take everything out of facilities and institutions and programs because they really have no intention of educating, rehabilitating, or anything. They just want to set them up with a pipeline and talk this and talk that and maybe throw a little money somewhere, and then the money disappears and they still on their game, of where they want us to go.
And some counselor who's in there, the one that all the kids think are cool, listen, he already snuck in the Kevin Hart video. And everybody laughing, ha, 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 all the stupid shit, the latest action movie or whatever, maybe the Avengers or whatever the hell. Look, right. These kids are getting that in the DYS facilities, but they're not getting this. And that's what I'm saying.
2 or 3 people I can talk to, Jay. I'll let you know what I find out.
Let's do it.
Can I be honest though? I brought this stuff in because there was in Central Square there used to be Afrocentric bookstore, and I bought. But the thing is, I had to do it sort of on my own, and I probably did it because of the class I took. And we used this book, Growing Up Black, and then we used Black Like Me by Griffin, and I bought them and I used them. So I've done it, and they love it. Do you know what I mean? They can get that. I just had to do it like completely on my own. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it was me. Like my teacher had said, for Black people that, forgive me, this is a theory. I'm not like telling you like I'm teaching you, but I'm telling you that what I'd heard was she said if Black people are going to develop a healthy identity and they're part of, Black white society, they need to immerse themselves in Black history, and then they might come out of it a bit, but they need to have that period where they're really immersed in it. So I was trying to give my students that.
Well, and so the whole point is, once again, to each one reach one, teach one. So now if you're not in that environment no more, we just got to find whoever the new you is. There's got to be some people in these DYS facilities or in the schools who actually give a damn. So once again, we just have to find the people who are willing to sneak a book in, not sneak, but you know what I mean, take a book in, or suggest a film night, or facilitate a discussion.
So I got a contact. Can I'll reach out to you because I have a contact. I don't want to put him on recording, but I've got a contact that might be good for you.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, not for nothing too. It just made me think. I mean, not for nothing. I need to reach out to Steve Tompkins and see if we could do this for South Bay.
Steve, yeah, I know him. Like I've done some stuff with him, and he's very open to things. Yeah.
Yeah. So things like that. So all right. So once again, thank y'all for coming tonight, sticking through the whole thing, and everybody else who already left, but we'll see this later when it is because it is a recording, and it'll be on YouTube and all the good stuff. So thank everybody. God bless you. I will end with my usual thing. Please go be great. Have a great day, great night. Do something great. Be great yourself. Tell somebody you love them. Show somebody some love. Please show some love to a youth or elder. And as always, please push past the pain to the power. And as always, please choose righteousness over ratchetness. And as always, please don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. All right, y'all. Peace. Have a good night.
Bless you, Kathy. Bye.
Oh, good to meet you, Jackie.
Peace.
Okay.